Evening, everyone. It's 6:30, so we'll call our meeting to order. Ms. Wilson, do we have confirmation of notice to the media?
Yes, ma'am, they were notified.
Thank you. And I do declare that we have a quorum, having 6 of the 7 members here tonight. Mr. Patterson, unfortunately, is not going to be able to join us this evening. Now we'll need approval of our agenda, please. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
I'll make
the
a motion.
agenda?
We approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Raw. Are there any questions? All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye, raise your hand. That's unanimous. We'll move forward. I just want to welcome everyone here tonight. I see we have some special guests in the audience. For our law enforcement members that are here, I appreciate you coming and being a part of tonight's program. And if we could, Mr. Raw, if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our next step is to approve our minutes from the January 24th board meeting, and we would need a motion in order to do that.
I'll make a motion. We approve the minutes from January 24th.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. We have a motion to approve the minutes for the January 24th board meeting. All those in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you. And then at this point in the agenda, we will move to Mr. Zach Watson to give the Ford Elementary School report.
Good evening.
Good
evening.
Superintendent Thomas and board members, cabinet members, and our community as a whole. I am Zach Watson, principal at Ford Elementary School, and I have the pleasure of sharing with you all the school report from Ford Elementary School today. Can you all hear me? Am I good? Okay. All right. This is our year of champions. So we started off our year focusing on becoming champions. So we've broken our year into what we call quarters, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the presentation here. All right. At Ford, we have 3 priorities. First is safety for all students and staff. Second is high quality instruction, and the third is increased student achievement. They all 3 work together to get to that final goal of increasing student achievement. Priority 1, of course, is our safe and orderly environment, as you would have in any school setting. It just took on a bit of a different turn since COVID, of course. So I'll move right into our first priority there. It's safety. Safety is our first priority. Nothing else happens without our students and staff feeling safe in the environment. First order of business with that is to minimize behavioral infractions. At Ford, we have a social and emotional learning program that we use. It's called In Focus, where our students participate in daily lessons that help them to deal, 1, with their emotions, 2, recognize them, and then 3, be able to communicate them properly. And I'll show you a slide with a student working individually with one of our teachers there through some of that social emotional learning. We also provide professional development in that program as well. About once a month we'll come together, and the professional developer provides us with professional development in that area. We also have a school-wide discipline plan, PBIS, and what we focus on are the behaviors that we desire. And we do professional development along those lines as well. Our students, they just have taken it and turned it into something really, really special. Our students, they know the 4 areas that we want them to grow in. That's being responsible, respectful, ready to learn, and safe. They know what it looks like in the cafeteria. They know what it looks like in the auditorium, in the classrooms, on the buses, wherever there's a matrix that we use to teach that, and they do a great job of following it. Even when we get new students, they get them acclimated to it as well, and it just works out well for us. From the standpoint of safety and health health and safety, we maintain sanitized classrooms. Super important to do so, especially during the time of the pandemic. Our bathrooms and commons areas are cleaned on a rotation with our custodians, and we also, thanks to our maintenance department, have an opportunity to have what we call evening disinfecting taking place. So each evening we have individuals to come in and do a really good job of disinfecting, so that when the students and staff return the next day, we have a clean and pristine environment. We also have a safety team. That safety team is comprised of individuals one individual from each of our 3 buildings, and we meet periodically to review and update items that may pose an issue from a safety standpoint. We make those adjustments, then communicate them out to the staff. Not only do we communicate those out to the staff, we communicate our safety expectations and procedures to our forward family, meaning our parents and community as well. When individuals come, we make sure that they're aware of what our expectations are in terms of entering the environment and our safety expectations. We also have monthly safety drills. In those drills, we make adjustments when necessary. We have a goal of being able to exit our building in less than 2 minutes, 1 minute and 50 seconds. So we work each fire drill to get our students out of the building as quickly as possible, and then we make adjustments when we see areas that need to be adjusted there. As I spoke of with the individualized support there and learning for students, sometimes we do have our PBIS system that works for the majority. In fact, the great mass of our students respond well to it. Oftentimes it doesn't work for everybody. It's not a panacea, it's not a cure-all. So we have students that have some other challenges in terms of following the expectations. They have an opportunity to get some one-on-one support. And we provide that through social-emotional learning and get them back into the environment better than they were prior to whatever their crisis was. Priority number 2 is high-quality instruction. As I said, we start off as our year as the year of champions. So the first quarter was strictly about ensuring that we had an environment that is conducive for teaching and learning. If you ever enter our building, it's a print-rich environment. It's colorful, it's bright, vibrant. Although it's an older building, we make sure that we provide that aesthetic environment for our students that would engage them when they enter the building, as well as for our guests. So in our environments, we want to make sure that our teachers have models classrooms that will allow for the framework that we use to be delivered to our students on a daily basis. So that first quarter was strictly about ensuring that our environment was set up in a way that's conducive for learning, and our staff did an amazing job and have continued to do an amazing job ensuring that the environment is set in order for teaching and learning. We have ongoing professional development. Our top 2 professional developments right now are rooted in the teaching of reading. We use Project Read in our early grades, and we use ERLA, individual reading level assessments for our upper grade students. And Project Read focuses on those early literacy skills like phonics and phonemic awareness, so that our students have those readiness skills as they move into the upper grades. In the upper grades with ERLA, focus on that independent reading so that those students can engage in the nonfiction text and do things like pull items out of the text and be able to write a text-dependent analysis on an article or a piece of writing. Also making sure that our students understand the elements that are within the different genres, the character traits, and the main idea, and those components that as students learn to read, they're able to pull out of their reading. One of our keys is definitely observation and feedback. Ms. Parks here with us, our assistant principal. We make sure that we are sitting in classrooms not from the standpoint of supervising, but making sure that we are supporting our teachers when we're in those classrooms. So an observation without feedback is somewhat intimidating. I know that was to me as a teacher, because you're really wanting that feedback. So the feedback portion of it is super important. So we generally sit with our teachers. I try to avoid the email and make it personal and have an opportunity to sit with them and give them feedback about what we observe in the classroom. When we're observing, we try to observe from the standpoint of what the student's seeing, what the student is taking in, so that we can provide them with those opportunities to increase their ability to deliver instruction, so that we in turn have high quality instruction. Teacher support and resourcing is a major deal. making sure that our teachers are supporting those things that they do well, and that we support them in those areas where they need some development, and then providing the right resources for it, ensuring that our teachers have the most effective tools in their hands to be able to meet the varying needs of our students. So we utilize our coaching and administrative teams through our grade level meetings and POCs to be able to pull and provide resources for our teachers as needed. And we have a tiered instructional framework here. The focus right now for us, especially with the COVID learning loss and the gaps that are there, is making sure that we shore up our tier 1 instruction. That's the instruction that all of our students receive. That's the prescription that's provided for all students as they enter into the classroom now, as they need more intensive, as they require more intensive instruction, they move up the tiers a bit and receive some of that pull-out and individualized or small group instruction. But the key is to ensure that we get really, really good tier 1 instruction. And in the elementary schools, especially in the early grades, and that K1 and 2 area, it's important to make sure that we send them on to the next grade level with a solid foundation. And last but not least, we celebrate excellence. When a student, a teacher, a staff member hits the mark, we want to make a big deal out of it. We want to celebrate when we are hitting our targets. So we celebrate a lot there with our staff to make our environment one that is engaging and that individuals would like to be a part of. This is an example of one of our classrooms. I think this was early in the year. Kindergarten group, they were learning like champions. You can see they're in little pods there, and along with the opportunity for them to have the learning stations. Priority number 3, increase student achievement. All of what we've talked about leads to this, increasing student achievement. We have individualized learning pathways. All of our students have portfolios, learning portfolios that are built around their own levels. And in those portfolios, you have some qualitative and quantitative data, but you utilize that data to deliver instruction that is needs-based for our students. Because as we are all aware, COVID hasn't had an impact on students moving to the next grade level ready. So if they're not ready, we've got to individualize the learning so that we're meeting them where they are and giving them those readiness skills. So we utilize those learning pathways through the portfolio process to provide students with the needed support, and in some cases, some enrichment as well. Formative assessments are big. Formative assessments are assessments that are utilized for learning. So what we want to do is assess often, utilize those assessments to help our teachers adjust their instruction, in turn being able to have high quality instruction because it's geared towards what students need at specific levels. So those formative assessments are important, and they're placed in the portfolios and along with the progress monitoring so that those students, as they're working towards whatever their goal may be, you can see the progress as it takes place. We are fortunate to have collaborative planning at Ford. We come together with our teams 2, sometimes three times a week in our planning sessions, and what we work on are ensuring that 1, our teachers have the resources that they need, and 2, that we all are on the same page in terms of what's being taught and the priorities, around the priority standards that are being taught, so that we're not missing the mark when we're delivering instruction. We also work to model the expectations for our teachers in the classroom. As I said earlier, we set up model classrooms in the beginning so that everyone would have an idea of what the environmental expectation is, and we work to do the same when it comes to the delivery of the instruction. That next piece, the student-centered learning stations, something that our teachers provide for students, but it has to be data-driven. The learning stations are centered around what the students' needs are. So you may go into a class where you have 5th grade students in math, but they may be working on a 3rd grade skill or concept. And so that we can shore their skills up so that they're ready to enter into those 5th grade standards. So those learning stations are opportunities for those students to practice at their level and skill up so that they can enter into have the readiness for their grade level standards. And in some cases, again, it's extension for students, because we do have a number of students that require that extension. And then academic recovery is a must at this point. As we're all aware, students have lost some instructional time starting back in March of 2020. So being able to recover that lost instructional time and providing those students with a small group intervention in the afternoons and as often as we can is a part of our goals. We have cycles of academic recovery. Right now we're working with our third grade students in our Champions Academy in the area of ELA and reading, because they'll begin to take the MAP assessment in a week or so. And we want to make sure that we're giving them the best chance to demonstrate their growth. They are also the first to take SC Ready ELA, so we make sure that we give them those rounds prior to their testing. Wraparound services are extremely necessary at Ford, and I would say, just from things that I've read across the nation, making sure that we are reaching out to our district individuals like Dr. Barksdale, our behavioral interventionist, Ms. Lynn Todd, those people to be able to come in and support our students when they have issues or situations that kind of move beyond the scope of the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Just want to make sure that we provide them with the best support and supporting not only them but their families. And then maintaining an academically focused environment. A part of that is, I just remember my children as kindergartners, and they get in the car and the first thing we look at would be did you get a green light, red light, or yellow light, or smiley face, frowny face that today? Well, what we are wanting to make sure that we get our parents to focus on is not the behavioral components, but the academic components. So every Tuesday, our students receive what we call Tuesday folders, and those folders are filled with progress from the previous week. It gives a parent an opportunity to look at things from an academic standpoint, so that when they call and have a conversation with me about an issue, we can drive them back to focusing on the academics. Schools are built for teaching and learning, so we want to make sure that we maintain that focus on teaching and learning. Our environment, when you walk in, it's print rich. You'll see anchor charts. You'll see cues for students to be able to learn and engage in activities within their classroom. Pictures of our students are posted up. We just want to make sure that it's an environment that speaks to you belong here. But from the academic standpoint, making sure that not only our teachers have that focus, but that our parents have that academic focus, and we steer them away from feeling as if the behavior piece is the win for the day. The expectation is that you come in and you behave properly. The academics is what we want to make sure that they're able to take away and grow academically. So make sure we maintain that focus on our academic environment. And academic excellence, like I said earlier, celebrations are big. This was our math bowl in the winter math bowl. Third graders. So Doc stated there she was the third grade winner along with some of the other third grade contestants. But putting our students in situations where they have an opportunity to demonstrate their strengths academically in front of their peers. So having competitive learning is a piece, and they really, really enjoy it. It actually went a lot quicker than we would have liked. Would have made a few more rounds, but yet still we like to celebrate when they do things that are excellent, and that's just an example of that academic excellence celebration. Our vision has been the same, and it doesn't change. It's to be the best on all performance measures, but you can't be the best on all performance measures without having performance measures. So the first is the academic performance measures. In elementary school, we have ELA, math, science, and social studies, so we want to make sure that we're the best in reference to those academic performance measures. We want to make sure that our students are growing leaps and bounds, that they are meeting our grade level expectations at high rates in all of those content areas. And then student, staff, and parent satisfaction is important. Our student satisfaction is easy. We measure it by their smiles. Our staff satisfaction, we get feedback from them. We sit in our meetings and we talk about needs and things that they'd like to have happen, and we make sure that we do our due diligence and make sure that we put them in the best situation to be successful. Our parent satisfaction is a definite goal for us. Ms. Parks and myself, we do what we call positive parent contacts for no real reason. We'll call parents in the mornings and afternoons just to tell them that their child is great and we appreciate having them here, and make sure that we're specific about something that they've done, so that when the child gets home, they have a great report from the administration there. And then we ask for feedback from those parents to give us information about what they'd like to see or need. Our culture and climate is important. You know, having the right culture and climate, everything happens in an environment, but the culture and climate can be impacted by a number of things. So we always want to make sure that we're doing what I call a temperature check on our culture and climate. There are times where the energy of the staff may be down and we need to do things to pick them up. There are times where it's just very, very positive and upbeat, so we want to make sure that we're keeping those things going by pointing out what's best in everybody and putting the right people in the right places. And I think we're in a good place with that this year as well. Moving toward our vision. I won't read all of that. It's kind of the same thing we talked about, but that last piece is the most important. Everything at Ford is student-centered. If it's not about the students, then it just doesn't belong in our building. So everything that we do is student-centered. We also believe in shared leadership. We have better seeking teams. As Parks and I, as administrators, we believe that making sure that we're giving our teachers an opportunity to take the lead on items and put out products, and they enjoy doing that and taking the lead on different projects around the building and bringing it forth to the staff and seeing their work coming together. Always having a focus on improving our safety and security as well. Again, I won't read all of those. All right. Continuous improvement doesn't happen without focusing on or identifying, not focusing on, because you want to focus on that, but without identifying what your roadblocks are. You cannot get better at anything without first identifying, okay, what are the impediments? Attendance, from the standpoint of COVID and the absences that the pandemic has caused. So we know we have an issue in terms of the amount of time that students are with us, which is why I said attendance. And not just our students, but our staff as well. They've been impacted by that. So it slows down our ability to meet our goals in a sense. Staffing shortages, not having a grade level of teachers there and then having to use others to cover those grade levels has an impact on our ability to get to our goal. And the percentage of students entering grade level requiring intervention. Remember I talked about that tiered instructional framework that we have, and that's why that tier 1 instruction is so important, because if we get that high quality instruction there, we don't have as many students going into the next grade level requiring intervention. So we want to make sure that we're cutting down on that need for our students to require intervention. And now we're doing it through academic recovery, our Eagle's Nest, our Champions Academy, trying to get those babies caught up from the impact of losing instructional time in many cases. Now, our strengths. As we put this together, one of the things that I noticed was that our strengths actually tied to our weaknesses, because if we are having staff absences, one of our strengths is staff collaboration. We don't have issues with our team members willing to go and cover a class or give up a period to make sure that they're doing what's best for our students, regardless of if they have to give it themselves to do it. They collaborate well. For the most part, the staff members are willing to do those things that are supportive of their colleagues as well. So when we have those absences, individuals step up and make sure that classes are covered. And our teams do a great job of ensuring that they leave plans when it's not an emergency, so that whoever's covering has an opportunity to go in and deliver some solid instruction. Academic support resources. Just making sure that we're using those resources that are available to us. Our district is resource rich, so we want to make sure that our teachers and our students benefit from those resources. So we try to keep it simple. Those things that are working, let's keep those going. Those things that aren't, let's eliminate those and replace them with something that's working. So we have enough resources to kind of work through those resources and find those that are best fit for us. Parental support efforts. As I said earlier, our parents, when given the opportunity, will support our efforts. We have to make it available to them. And the first order of making it available to them is to get them to focus on the academic performance of their children. That gives them an opportunity to engage in the learning process with us. And then one of our other strengths is, from a state safety standpoint, our school-wide discipline program. Our students respond well to it. We celebrate them when they do, and they do those things that are in line with our matrix, like being respectful, responsible, ready to learn, and safe. Now, our champions. Again, this is our year champions. Ms. Garrett is a first-year teacher with us, and she was selected as a induction teacher of the month early in the year. That's her in the middle with her team there. She's one of our new champions, and we're looking forward to a lot of great things from her. We have other champions. Ms. Gail Jones is our cafeteria manager. She was recognized as the District Spirit of 55 Award recipient this year. True lie. That is Ms. Jones in that in that eagle. Just not the Ms. Jones that we're talking about. But I have that up there because our support staff, they're enthusiastic. They bring a special energy to our school and to our students that is it's just unmatched. I haven't seen it, and I've worked in a number of schools and districts, but our support staff, they believe in the work that they're doing and believe in our kids. So I really applaud them. That's actually Ms. Jones being the eagle for today. We have student champions as well. Little Mason Miller is one of our fourth grade students. He was recognized as the district champion spotlight student by Dr. Thomas. I want to say it was last month, if I'm not mistaken. These months are running together for me now as it's going by so quickly. But, Mason is definitely a champion student. That's about all you get out of him in a smile or anything, but he takes care of business. Now, this is our population. Again, that's not something I read, but I do want you to pay attention to the gender breakout. Our school is almost kind of close to evenly split, which gives our students, in my opinion, an advantage because you have enough girls and enough boys so you can have buddies and develop proper relationships, and you have people that you can work with that are like you. Oftentimes, when you look at that breakout, you're heavy on boys or heavy on girls, but we're kind of evenly matched across the board there. Boys and girls from 4K to 5th grade. And we also serve some 3K students as well. Our student demographic is interesting. We have 437 students. 150 of those students are black, 76 are Hispanic, 14 are multi-ethnic, and 132 are white. We are working to ensure that we leverage that dual language capacity for our students. Some research out that indicates that students that are multilingual have the capacity to perform academically at higher levels. So we want to make sure that we're leveraging that with that large number of Hispanic students that we have. Not all of them speak two languages, but the majority of them do. We want to make sure that we're utilizing their attributes for their advantage. And we saved our best for last. Our best is we have a great staff. This is just a picture of a few of our people, and when you come to our school, this is what you see and this is what you get. You get people that are enthusiastic about working with children. They want to be there, and they want to do those things that are special for children and each other. Take good care of each other. In fact, Ms. Park's birthday was Sunday, and she walked into a balloon surprise today and a number of other things, but it took a weekend to kind of get it done for her. Just a way of showing that we appreciate one another, and it's done quite often by everybody in the building. So we have a great staff. Our future innovators. This is a STEM project that was actually done in art. And these students were to design school of the future. So what you see is a globe right there, not a physical school, but a globe, because these are forward-thinking students, and what they thought of is that the schools of the future won't be a physical building. Be a place where you log in and you're engaged in learning with students from around the world. And you won't physically be there together, but students will learn collectively in classes from around the world. So we have some very, very innovative and forward-thinking students, and those champions came up with a great concept for the school of the future. And I believe they may be close to correct on that as well. And then our big smile, that's Bo. Bo is a champion at Ford, and if you ever visit, you gotta go and meet Bo. He has a phenomenal teacher in Ms. Hobbs. She was actually our teacher of the year last year. But Bo arrived, and he didn't want to be with us for a long period of time. and he made it known that he didn't like us, he didn't like this place, but she was determined to turn that smile, that frown, into a smile. And Bo was able to earn his way to the positive party and has been a champion ever since. In fact, in the mornings, if you're feeling down or need you a pick-me-up, just go down and Bo will get you going. He's a great little guy. So our big smiles are important at our school. And then last but not least, everybody, community members and all, you are invited. Come out and just see what's happening at our school. We've got a great staff, we have amazing students, and some really, really good things taking place there. So come for a visit and jump into the joy of teaching and learning like champions. What you see there are our third grade teachers there celebrating with the students at our, I think that was our first positive party of the year. And the teachers and students really, really enjoyed the fruits of their labor. And that's kind of what we do every day. We enjoy being there and we celebrate the work that we do. That's all I have. So thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share forward with you today. And again, please come out and join us. Come out and just take a visit, take a walk around, and see what's happening in our school. It's a great place.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. And now, Dr. Thomas, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm so excited for the opportunity to share information about the wonderful things happening in our district, as well as information that will have an impact on our district. In our continued efforts to obtain input from stakeholders, we have posted another district climate survey. The link was also included in last week's message to parents. It was sent out through email and text. It's also posted on the district website at www.lawrence55.org. Please take an opportunity to provide feedback. We're focused on continuous improvement and getting input from our stakeholders. So please take an opportunity to complete that survey. The deadline for that is on March the 7th. In light of the recent incidents in our district with students bringing weapons to school, we're refocusing our safety committees to reevaluate our safety protocols. Our focus is on prevention, intervention, mitigation, and planning as we address these issues. Our priority is to provide a safe learning environment for our wonderful students to thrive. We're very concerned when there are disruptions to our positive learning environments. Weapons, bullying, harassment, and violence of any kind are not tolerated by the district. We encourage our parents and guardians to discuss these incidents with their children and emphasize that the district does not tolerate weapons or violence of any kind. We request for parents to check backpacks daily. In addition, we ask students to report any safety concerns as soon as possible. If you see something, say something. If you hear something, say something. We will continue to explore and implement proactive measures to deter undesirable behaviors and outcomes in order to provide students with a safe and positive learning environment. There are several different steps that the district has taken so far to address these concerns, and I will name just a few of those at this time. We debriefed with law enforcement after the incidents to review protocols and whether or not changes were needed. We collaborated with law enforcement to convey a consistent message and provide reassurance for the community. We are in the process of scheduling training for staff on updates regarding safety protocols. We've met with law enforcement and will continue to have this collaboration to discuss safety protocols, training, community outreach, gun safety curriculum, plan of action, next steps. We made a lot of progress during our initial meeting, and we have a follow-up meeting scheduled for March the 7th. We've also scheduled for article dogs, which are trained to identify weapons, and drug dogs to visit campuses on a regular basis. We are researching metal detectors to be placed in schools. We're scheduling listen and learn sessions to receive additional input from stakeholders. We have a plan for safety assessments of our campuses, gun safety education for students utilizing the school resource officers. We're also looking at our nationally recognized safety curriculum implementation. Social emotional learning curriculum is already in place, and there are at-home activities available. Today, a podcast went out with Lieutenant Scott Franklin on safety information. Thank you, Lieutenant Franklin, for joining me with the podcast for that. So if you've not had an opportunity to listen to that, please take an opportunity. It is listed it's on our website, and you can find that on Anchor as well. But we do have that podcast that's available with some good information and advice and tips as well. We are encouraging students who need support from our school counselors or mental health counselors to please reach out to their teacher, administrator, or the counselor. And as part of my report, as we're talking about safety, Police Chief Chrissy Latimer is here, as well as Lieutenant Scott Franklin, and they will share some additional information on protocols and safety tips for schools and parents. So if you all would share at this time.
Good evening, school board members. Dr. Thomas, thank you for inviting us. And community members and stakeholders, thank you all for being here. I'm Chief Chrissy Latimer with Lawrence Police Department, and I would first like to say thank you to the school board members, Dr. Thomas, teachers, staff, and students for a job well done in handling the incident on February the 18th. The situation was a high-stress incident for all parties involved. You should be proud of the actions of Dr. Thomas, the teachers, the staff members, and the students. Everyone made it home safely, which is our main priority at the end of the day. Thank you for the solid working relationship that exists between law enforcement and the schools of District 55. Maintaining the safety and security of all involved is a top priority of my agency, and it shows through your efforts that it is your priority as well. So thank you. I understand that some may feel things should have been done maybe just a little bit differently, and I completely understand. However, as an investigator, we must weigh the public's need to know against the integrity of our investigation. I'd like to give you a summary of how we disseminate information for criminal offenses and the reasoning behind our decisions. We handle criminal investigations with the school just as we handle criminal investigations out in the public. Initially, basic information is given out, and that basic information contains the what and the when. Basically, this is to confirm that an incident has happened and to ensure everyone of the safety of all members involved. This way, parents and guardians understand that an incident has happened, however, their student, their child, is okay. In this situation, law enforcement in the school conducted the investigation to determine the who and the where. This information was not immediately given out because it would have interfered with our investigation, meaning parents would have flocked to the school and officers would have had to work on crowd control. Staff would have to work on dismissing students rather than focusing on the investigation. Staff would also have to work on answering the numerous phone calls that would have come into the school rather than focusing on the investigation. The media outlets would have arrived and we would have had to focus on media relations and crowd control instead of the actual incident. This would have made our investigation into the incident much more complicated and harder to manage. Fortunately for all involved, we were able to identify, isolate, and investigate the incident without any interference or misinformation. Parents and caregivers, I understand receiving this kind of call is nerve-wracking. It's not a call we want to receive. I am a parent as well. Both of my children graduated from District 55. I understand the desire to want to know everything right now. However, from a law enforcement perspective, sometimes this is not possible. And in this particular situation, such as this past event, we ask for the patience as we gather as much information as possible. We want to provide each and every one of you with factual information gathered and corroborated by our investigators prior to putting out incident specifics. We ask that you are patient with us as we gather this information to avoid presenting information that is not accurate. Please be assured that your Lawrence Police Department is dedicated to the safety of every child, teacher, and staff member within the district. We strive to maintain a high level of professionalism, and to that end, our officers are well trained to handle incidents such as this one on February the 18th. We are currently working with the school district to implement new curriculum, as Dr. Thomas stated, training events, and community events to further educate our parents, teachers, staff, and students regarding weapons safety. Lieutenant Franklin will talk about one of the programs that we're working to bring to fruition, and that one is the Child Safety Project. And Lieutenant Franklin laid some of the gun locks out for you all to take a look at. Those gun locks have kind of evolved some with that project, and we hope to have some new ones in soon so that we can start disseminating them. Your children in the district, our children in the district, are of the utmost importance to us, and their safety is paramount in any situation, especially in situations such as what we had on February the 18th. I want to reiterate what Dr. Thomas said a few moments ago, that prevention begins at home. Check your students' book bags. Check their social media accounts. Check with their friends. Pay attention to behavior changes. Most importantly, speak to your child about school safety, about gun safety, and what to do if they ever see something. If they believe something is dangerous, who do they go to? Make sure those students, your children know. Teachers, listen to your students. Develop those relationships with them so that they feel comfortable coming to you and letting you know when something is wrong. Again, prevention begins at home. Thank you.
I'm Lieutenant Franklin, and I'll just quickly speak about what Dr. Thomas and some of the other staff spoke about on our recent meeting. We talked about projectchildsafe.org. I suggest everybody goes to that website. It's projectchildsafe.org. They have reams of information available. They have videos. They have stuff you can print out. All sorts of resources are there. And I'm currently in contact with those folks at Child Safe, and we're going to try to implement a locking event whereby they will come to our jurisdiction, wherever we decide that to be, and they will do a presentation for parents, staff, students, to go over the dangers of guns and other weapons, and they'll also teach you how to work these locks properly. And they'll also talk about proper storage. Lots of information will be forthcoming. And I look forward to working further with Dr. Thomas and the rest of the staff to implement a lot of this stuff, because I think it's important. And as the chief said, and Dr. Thomas has said, prevention begins at home. I cannot stress that enough. That's very key, so that we don't have further incidents such as this. We'll take any questions, Chief and I, that you may have.
How young of a student does Child Safe start with?
It's all ages.
Okay.
It starts from the youngest all the way up to high school kids. It's for everybody. Again, Ms. Ware, I suggest go to their website. There's so much information there. It would take me all day to go through it. I presented a few things to Dr. Thomas and his staff the other day, and Dr. Thomas, you saw there was just lots of stuff there that just readily available. It's all free. Doesn't cost a dime.
Where do you see our district as far as needing something extra? I've done quite a bit of reading since the incident on the 18th, and just different avenues that districts have taken to provide safety for their students. And I think that we're doing many of those things, but yet we still have now had 2 occurrences in a very short period of time. So where do you see that we're falling short, that we need to fill in the gap with something extra?
I believe with the first incident, there were a few failures that happened prior to the child coming to school. Book bags need to be checked. We're not gonna hide behind not saying that. Book bags need to be checked. That way we know what our kids are bringing to school and bringing home from school. The second incident that happened outside of our jurisdiction at the high school, I think that incident was handled the way it should have been handled, in that somebody found out, an outsider from outside of the school, and they made contact with the school to let them know that there may be an issue that law enforcement needed to take a look into. So as far as where our district stands compared to other districts, I think that we're on the right track. We're having these meetings, we're having these sessions where we do after action reviews. What can we do better? What can we improve? So I think that we're doing all the right things. We just have to get buy-in from the community and buy-in from the parents.
Thank you. Thank you guys for speaking tonight.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Chief Latimer and Lieutenant Franklin. Thank you so much for the collaboration and for that information as well. Black History Month celebrates the achievements of African Americans and recognizes the prominent role of African Americans in U.S. history. Our students have been learning about notable African Americans in history and local members of our community. This year, the National Black History Month theme focuses on the importance of health and wellness. As we near the end of Black History Month, I encourage everyone to continue to expand your cultural awareness and to take the opportunity to continue to focus on health and wellness, which is this year's theme. School Bus Driver Appreciation Week in South Carolina was February the 22nd through the 26th. February the 22nd was designated as School Bus Driver Appreciation Day. We would like to say a public thank you to all of our Lawrence 55 bus drivers who safely transport our students each day. More than 100 students have taken part in our STEM Saturday Institute. This past Saturday was our last Saturday, and our students always want more. This learning opportunity was for students in grades 2 through 5. Areas of focus include science, technology, engineering, and math for all of grade levels, and literacy was also incorporated into the curriculum. Thank you so much to the Teaching and Learning Department for all of their hard work that they put into this initiative. Specifically Lee Severin for all of her hard work and dedication to this institute, as well as the teachers and staff who commit to work on Saturdays to bring the joy of STEM to our students. On February the 16th, the Lawrence District High School Navy Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps, led by Senior Chief John Walker, had their annual military inspection in the Raider Gym. The AMI is an inspection conducted annually by the Navy to ensure that each NJROTC unit is operating and maintaining the Navy's standards. Several cadets were recognized for demonstrating exceptional personal appearance while in uniform. This pass and review was executed by over 60 cadets. We're happy to announce that Sanders Middle School has partnered with You Make a Difference Foundation to provide a variety of resources at the school. The foundation is donating $12,339 for the school to organize a food and clothing pantry, provide dry erase board tables for the math department, and tables for outside dining and/or instruction. This is wonderful news and great partnership for the school, and we're very appreciative to You Make a Difference Foundation. Furman Ford recently presented the first ever electric Mustang to the Lawrence District High School Automotive Technology Pre-Engineering and Welding programs. Matt Furman and William Hill of Furman Ford were on hand to make the presentation. Mr. Furman praised the LDHS Auto Tech Lab and Thomas Chandler for their caliber of student he presents to the automotive technology industry after successful completion of the high school program. Again, we're very appreciative to Furman Ford as well for this very generous donation. On February the 24th, we had the honor of presenting the first Superintendent Scholars Awards ceremony to a group of Lawrence District High School seniors. These young men and women have attained a 3.8 or higher GPA by their 7th semester of high school. There were 130 students who qualified for this recognition. Students were presented with a certificate and a medallion that can be worn at graduation. Congratulations to all of our scholars. Our next Saturday Success Session is scheduled for March the 5th. Students may register on the district's website. This is available for all students and provides standards-based opportunities to make up lost learning. This initiative was developed to help provide academic assistance for students, and it also has a social-emotional learning component. Thank you to Ms. Kathy Bennon for her hard work with this initiative and for the teachers who have committed to making this opportunity available for our students. We're also very excited about our Greenville Drive Reading All-Stars initiative. This is a reminder that all reading logs must be turned in this week. Students who meet their program requirements for reading will receive a ticket for free admission to the Greenville Drive baseball game on April the 24th at 3:30 p.m. We're also very excited to be a part of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library program in District 55. This program provides free books for children ages birth to 5 who live in the District 55 attendance area or who attend District 55 schools. Parents can visit the district website to register their child and to begin receiving a free book delivered in the mail once a month. Our champion administrator for the month of February is Mr. Carlos Littlejohn, principal at Lawrence Elementary School. Congratulations to Mr. Littlejohn. We're very thankful for all that he does each day for the students and community of Lawrence Elementary School. We have 3 champion students to spotlight for February. These are Mason Miller, 4th grader at Ford Elementary, Brandon Canales-Liners, 7th grader at Lawrence Middle School, and Cassidy Simpson, a 2nd grader at Lawrence Elementary School. I commend these students for displaying champion characteristics that were noticed by their school leadership team. Congratulations to Tyler DeShields, who was recognized as the January Champion Induction Teacher. Mr. DeShields teaches 8th grade at Graycourt Owens School, and we're very appreciative for his hard work and dedication and always going above and beyond. Our January Support Staff Spirit of 55 Award winner was Selena Goldsmith, Office Professional at Waterloo Elementary School, and Emily Hammett was selected as the certified staff for the Spirit of 55 for January, and she teaches English at Lawrence District 55 High School. Congratulations to these individuals, and again, we're very appreciative for all of their hard work. During the month of February, the #Teen Tuesday Award was presented to Ms. Lisa Wilson, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and the Board of Trustees. We're very thankful for her diligence, hard work, dedication, and years of service to Lawrence County School District 55. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Our next Parent Academy virtual session is scheduled for Thursday, March the 24th from 6 to 7. This is a free event presented by Teaching Heart Institute, and it will focus on suicide awareness and prevention. Anyone who wishes to participate may do so by visiting the district website on www.lawrence55.org prior to the event. We will also have another Parent Academy planned for Thursday, April the 7th from 6 until 7. Again, this is a free virtual event, and it will be presented by Lieutenant Scott Franklin, Public Information Officer from the Police Department, on safety in schools. I would like to take this opportunity again just to thank all of the teachers and staff and administrators in the district for all of the hard work that they do each and every day and going above and beyond for to serve the students in our schools and our community. As always, I encourage all parents and guardians to be sure the schools have the correct contact information for each student. I also encourage all stakeholders to remain informed by checking the district website, Twitter, and Facebook pages often. Once a month, we publish the Times in 55 on the district website, and we also do table talk each week. And there's also a message from the superintendent that goes out weekly as well. So if you're not receiving any of those communications, please contact your school to make sure we have your correct information. This concludes the district updates portion of our report. I would now like to ask Dr. Lael to come forward to present special education services update, unless there are any questions on the first portion.
Dr. Thomas, I would like to maybe not ask a question, but just acknowledge a couple of things. The project childsafe.org that Lieutenant Franklin was speaking of, can we link that on our district website for parents to find?
Yes.
Is that something that's doable? And Lisa, I just want to say congratulations, well deserved, on Team Tuesday. And I just want to thank you for bringing back the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. I think that was something that was missing for a little while in our district, and I appreciate you working to bring that back. Thank you.
Dr. Lael.
All right, good evening, everyone, and members of the board. Thank you guys for having me provide an update tonight, and thank you all who are here tonight or listening online. Tonight, I will be sharing a few updates from the Office of Special Education Services related specifically to transition services for students ages 13 and older in South Carolina who are receiving specialized educational services under the IDEA. Lawrence District High School has several partnerships with agencies, especially in our community, including Vocational Rehabilitation, DDSN, and South Carolina ABLE. These agencies are an integral part of transition services we provide to our students as students work on career readiness skills, work-based learning experiences, identify career goals and interests, and as they pursue these goals through coursework needed, job skills instruction, training with work-based learning experiences in various internship settings. Our high school offers internship opportunities both on and off campus, and tonight I'm going to just highlight several of those, two of which are new and one that's been around for quite a while now. So I have a thank you here to our students who were involved in preparing for tonight, and also to all the teachers and support staff who have helped get the two newest programs up and running or were a part of the developmental process or stages. I did have a thank you for our Raider Joe's students. They actually had planned to be here prior to the meeting starting tonight to serve their coffee and refreshments, but due to an unexpected staff illness, we will have to postpone that, but we will bring them back to another meeting and plan that again. But also a thank you to our students in one of our newest programs at the high school for our own campus work-based learning experiences and internship opportunities, which I'll highlight in just a few minutes, but it's Raider Creations, and the students developed their first product as a gift to our board members tonight, which is on each of your tables. That was the first thing they got to train and make in their new program. Okay, so this is just a brief video showing some highlights of the programs we'll be focusing on tonight and of our students and staff at work. to begin with, one program we've had around for a while is our PAYS Lab on campus at the high school to provide systematic work-based learning and training. It stands for Practical Assessment Exploration System, and it's a hands-on, research-based, data-driven program that we use for transition age students with age-appropriate skills. It helps assess these skills and their progress with things as soft skills, self-advocacy, but also systematic skills needed for sustained employment and competitive employment, which are generalizable skills across various work settings. The students clock in, even though it's on campus, it's to mimic a work setting. They complete different work-based tasks. Again, that would be generalizable to different jobs. And they explore over 300 jobs and career areas out of the 5 large category career areas that the assessment focuses on. Raider Joe's Coffee. The lead teacher for this is Mrs. Brenda Calvo at the high school. Raider Joe's has been a very big success. The students who have had opportunities to work for Raider Joe's really thoroughly enjoy it. We were doing some cool things prior to the pandemic. Some of the photos you saw in the slideshow were our students actually working at the district office. We had a professional development one day where other districts were also attending as participants, and so they got to see our Raider Joe's program, and the students served them and sold some refreshments and coffee for a profit to keep their business sustained. And so, unfortunately, with the pandemic, we did have to pause some of those in-person experiences for a little while, but we are excited for them to be up and running and starting that back now. They focus on independent skills or improving their independent skills, soft skills, job exploration, on-site training, and do things with categorizing, sorting. Of course, they learn how to make their products and work on money management, marketing, and finance skills. So one of our newest on-campus businesses or internship and work-based learning sites is a building where students now have various equipment to make and sell products. So it will be a campus, an on-campus business led by our students with IEP services. They are preparing products right now, but they're also training to use the equipment. It's some pretty big, fancy, complicated equipment. So these were the first things that they were trained to create, but they do have very big plans for producing more and more products, expanding their inventory, and then they will sell these products from their own campus business to keep their business running and expand their resources and equipment even further. But they're learning technology, they're using software programs to design and create logos or different designs on personalized items. They will create coasters, cups, keychains, jewelry, shirts, screen printing on different shirts or clothing. So again, their list is expansive. We're very excited for this to now be up and running. It took a little while this year getting everything set up, but also in the slideshow, the students got out in the building with adult employees and support staff and helped set up their own business to get it up and running now. They will do on-site training with a couple of lead teachers at the high school, including Mr. Jawan Stevens and Mrs. Cheryl Earl. And again, they will have curriculum to work on soft skills, marketing, graphic design, technology, sorting, categorizing, and a lot of other skills needed for successful competitive employment. Another new program that the district and our partners, our community partnerships, are in the developmental phases of at this time is called Project Search. We plan to begin our first group of internships for Project Search in the upcoming school year. And if you haven't heard of Project Search before, it's a 9-month internship program for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's targeted for individuals whose goal is competitive employment. It originated in the Cincinnati Children's Hospital, and it has grown from one original program at the Cincinnati Children's site to now over 600 programs across 47 states. So we are thrilled that we can now bring a program to Lawrence County School District 55 to include it in that number. Project Search's primary goal and objective is to secure competitive, integrated employment for people with disabilities, and this will be a program that our young adults who meet the criteria will apply for, and the committee will go through a review process, interviews, and assessments prior to the interns completing or starting their first one-year program. So again, it's a one-year internship program for young adults. I went over the goals already, and it will be over the course of 36 weeks. It'll follow the school year calendar. This just lists the eligibility criteria for interns who will be applying. Students must have an active IEP and be 18 years or older, 18 to 21 years old for our young adults who we serve. Eligible for vocational rehabilitation and DDSN services. Of course, they have to demonstrate functional communication skills and good hygiene and social skills to be in the host job site and to demonstrate the skills needed to gain employment by the end of the one-year Project Search internship training program. We need our students to have the ability to take direction and change behavior when needed or when receiving corrective feedback. Access to transportation, as once they are completers and gain employment, they would need to have a means of transportation to their job site. And they're also required to do the same initial screenings and background checks as employees at our host site, which is Prisma Health Lawrence County Hospital. And of course, the main criteria is the desire to work and have family support to help them gain this goal for employment. This is just a snapshot of a timeline and what it will look like for our first group of interns and groups following this first year in 2022. Again, the outcome is integrated competitive employment. The focus of the program is on serving young adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities who can benefit from personalized support in an intensive year of career development and internship experience. It's a collaborative partnership. So if you saw the graphic designed with the agencies for Project Search in the slideshow, Lawrence District 55 is partnering with Project Search, Vocational Rehabilitation, the Disabilities and Special Needs Board for Lawrence County, and with our host site, which was the most important stakeholder in this, or else we would not have been able to move forward with Project Search, and that is Prisma Health Lawrence County Hospital. This is also a graphic created by Project Search to give people a picture of what a typical day in this program will look like. Again, it will follow the school year calendar, but it will be over the course of a school day from approximately 8:30 or 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. The students will do an orientation and training process initially, but they will train for all of the department internships. They will go through an interview process with these departments and with their lead teacher, and they will be selected for rotations, up to 3 internship rotations in 3 different departments. That way it would give them a variety of experiences available in this host site for this host business, and to help them determine which department and which job best meets their strengths and what they're great at in this work setting. Other transition services and programs available to our transition age students and different initiatives within the district that help them reach these goals educationally and for career exploration. In addition to the ones highlighted tonight, our students on LDHS campus run Raider Garden. We have cake courses that our students also benefit from. Career development facilitators at our high school and middle schools. Personalized learning. All of our students receive support if needed from our MTSS model. Research-based curriculum and assessments. They all have access to credit recovery, virtual academy, and then of course we participate from most of our school campuses in the Special Olympics each year. It will be this April at PC, at Presbyterian College, and our middle and high school are working on more and more unified sports. And in a little bit later slide, it will feature when Erin Hahn from our high school was featured for her involvement as a facilitator at the high school in Special Olympics and unified sports at LDHS. Other agencies, as mentioned, are SCABLE, Vocational Rehab in Lawrence County, DDSN in Lawrence County, which has 3 campuses, Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce, and our partner with Project Search is Prisma Health Lawrence County. This was when Ms. Hahn was featured from LDHS. slides are just, again, some snapshots of the logos and different programs for our students receiving transition services. And we would also like to extend a thank you to our district transition coordinator, Mrs. Carolyn Short. She was recognized by receiving a state advocate award, state recognized award in 2021, and she plays a key role in us developing partnerships and also sustaining the partnerships long term. So we do appreciate her years of service and education and to our students with disabilities in Lawrence District 55. Okay, and if any parents or caregivers or students who are listening have any questions, please reach out to our department or to their team lead, and they will get in touch with us to help answer any questions anyone has. Or I can answer any questions tonight too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lael. At this time, I would like to recognize Ms. Kathy Bennon, who will share with you an update on our academic interventions.
Great evening, everyone.
Good evening.
To Madam Chair, Dr. Thomas, school board members, stakeholders present with us tonight, and those watching virtually. I am Kathy McMillan Bennon, Director of Academic Recovery Interventions. It gives me pleasure to share with you updates about the progress we've made since the inception of this department on August 10th, 2021. I've adopted this graphic, the umbrella, as our department's logo because it reminds us that academic recovery is a part of the MTSS umbrella that addresses the whole child from a holistic perspective. As educators, we have the mammoth task of identifying and providing services to aid each student in social, emotional, behavioral, and academic development. It is necessary to encourage all individuals involved to stay focused on the whole child. All 4 areas together are called a multi-tiered system of support, or MTSS. So where are we now? Personnel updates. Our mission as interventionists is to provide an arm of support. We have held interviews and are looking to close out the last few vacancies and make selections by the end of March. And at that time, we will have a fully staffed department with 11 academic recovery interventionists and 3 MTSS coaches. Our mission as interventionists is to teach our students. It is imperative that we love them unconditionally and inspire them to be all they can be. We strive daily to motivate them, to stretch them to their next level of success, and to lead by example. It is necessary to encourage everyone who is a part of the process to be good listeners, connect the right dots to address the child's needs, and include all features and individuals that make up the MTSS support model. This slide shows the foundation that the program is based. We started with fall 2021 MAP data, and from there we identified the targeted gap areas that our interventionists needed to focus on. In reading, we discovered that there is a pretty big gap and deficit area in phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension. In math, the data show that we have a severe deficit, and I say severe because it's 2 to 3 years below grade level. There is a severe need and deficit in numbers and operations, fast facts across all grade levels, and word problems. In writing, the fundamentals of writing and proper grammar usage. So we have a lot of work to do. This slide shows the data that we've collected so far. Now, it's a little jumbled, so I'm going to break it down for you. It shows the number of students that we worked with in the fall. It shows the number of students that tested out of interventions, the number of students that were added during the spring semester after replacing the ones that tested out with new students. It shows the number of students that we picked up in the area of math, because we were not addressing math in the fall, but now we are. And the number of students that we are providing services for in reading, math gains, and the total number of students that we are serving for the entire year so far. In the fall, we had 247 students that we were servicing. Then after winter math and looking at the numbers and looking at the students who graduate out, if you will, and replace them, we have a total of 299 students that we are currently working with. We had 58 students of the total number to test out, giving us a grand total to date of having serviced and touched 584 students. And let me add, that is not with a fully staffed department, that is what we have right now. So we're looking forward to adding more students and enriching the lives of more. As a result of looking at the test data and analyzing the needs of the students, looking at the gap deficit areas that I just shared, we did some research. And we decided, we have this clear cut and dry issue that we're looking at, but we needed a structured program. So we looked at a reading curriculum that provides an evidence-based curriculum that's designed for students that are 2 to 3 years below grade level in reading, and it provides blended learning intervention, personalized instruction, and designed for students in grades 4 through 12. So we're super excited about that. We just finished up some training on Read 180 and System 44. So this gives the interventionists a little bit more empowerment to know that they are following an evidence-based curriculum and using great time on task with the students. We want all of our students to be global readers and develop a sense of love for reading, for information, and for fun. In math, the same case scenario. I just shared the areas that we needed to work on, the gap deficit areas. So we have adopted the use of Math 180. This is also an evidence-based curriculum. It is proven to yield gains in mastery of math concepts. It includes personalized software rotation, as well as diagnostic and placement tests, and it is designed for students in grades 5 through 12. My department addresses students in grades 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9. So we are also looking at curriculums where we can incite the love for math, and so that students can make the connection, the personal connection as to why math is important. Why is it that I have to pay attention and learn some of these math concepts? Almost like, what's in it for me? So making that daily connection and real world connection in math. So like I said previously, that curriculum was pretty much designed for grades 5 through 12, and we service students in 3 through 4. So our district currently employs the use of Do the Math. So we're looking at this curriculum as well, possibly to address the needs of students in grades 3 and 4. So this is an awesome program that we already have, and it teachers build capacity as students move from basic concepts, understanding skills in addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions. This covers the deficit area in fast facts. I am sort of surprised to learn how many students in high school are struggling with basic fast fact skills. So if we can kind of address the need before we get to the secondary level, that would help to close that gap significantly. This program also supports the development of quantity by using benchmark numbers, thinking flexibility about composing and decomposing numbers, and building facility with figuring sums. So in layman's terms, hands-on math, manipulative. So what the students can learn the concrete, from the concrete to the abstract and the application, going from the lowest level of Bloom's with recall to application evaluation synthesis, higher order thinking. Students complete online assessments for a pre-module snapshot of what they know and a post-module portrait of all they've learned. Again, making those connections. What's in it for me? Why is this important? How is this going to help me? Why do I need to know it? This is designed to support struggling math for students in grades 1 through 5. Again, this image summarizes the MTSS concept. My department has 3 MTSS coaches, and we are in collaboration with Dr. Frank. We just attended 3 in-service trainings with the American Institutes of Research, AIR, and we are in the process of looking at the district's framework as it exists right now and tweaking it to make sure that all schools are on the same page and that there's consistency and common language for the MTSS process across the board. So that's kind of reiterating that. And also the RTI Store digital framework. This is a digital program that will store all information for all students in one centralized location. So we're excited about kind of streamlining and putting everything into one location. We can have everything easily accessible when it comes to the different tiers. When we meet with MTSS, going through the process at the different school levels, we'll be able to access the information, keep everything in one place. Dr. Thomas already mentioned about Saturday Success for Scholars. This is a brand new initiative that our department has launched. February 19th was the first session. This Saturday, March 5th, will be the second session. I have 13 teachers that have signed up to help with this initiative, and they are teachers that teach grades kindergarten through 12th grade. We do sessions or host sessions on social emotional learning, English and language arts, and math. These are the session dates. Session times are 9 o'clock, 10:30, and 12 o'clock. The teachers are required to do a virtual check-in the Wednesday before the session, and that's just to make sure everybody's still good for Saturday and to make sure they have everything that they need. Lesson plans are due at that time. Lessons are aligned with the state standards, so everything's aligned with standards and aligned with the curriculum. So we're staying focused because this is an extension and arm and additional support to reteach skills that they may have missed during the regular school day. And each teacher has a Saturday Success Google Classroom where all of the sessions are posted. They record the sessions and then upload them onto their Google Classroom for future use. So a student can sign up for 1 session on all 3. If they sign up for 3, the lessons are taught in tandem where what I teach at 9 o'clock is an extension of what I teach at 10:30 with a 15-minute review. So if Susie signs up for all 3, she's not getting the same lesson for 3 hours. Okay? They seem to have had a lot of fun. The students were excited, and I was excited as well. So looking forward to another great session. Any questions?
I have just a couple of questions.
Yes,
The sessions, are they all virtual?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so when the students, do you reach out to students to encourage them to sign up? Like if you see a student that there's a gap and you think they need to sign up, or is this just completely at their will?
Great question. The principals, let me say thank you to our principals. The principals are including or promoting the Saturday Success sessions through their daily announcements. The teachers are encouraging students that they have that may need extra support to sign up. My interventionists are also encouraging students that they serve to sign up for the sessions. But it is for anyone who would like to sign up. Now, when they go to register on the website, there's a lesson focus on the form. So a student can go and say, well, let me see what they're doing this Saturday for my grade level. So they can look and see what's being offered, and then they can decide to sign up, from that information.
Okay, thank you. And is your program for those students, like outside of students that have IEPs or the special ed department?
It's for anybody in the district. You mean the Saturday Success?
No, ma'am, I'm sorry. Going back to just your whole program, like the 584 students
Yes.
that you've been able to capture, is it outside of special ed and IEPs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We're focusing on tier 2 students.
Okay. And then as far as the length of time, you said you had graduated some students out. Is your goal to get the students for a semester and then get them back up to speed in whatever area you were working on, so that next semester they've finished your program and they're back on the regular schedule?
Great question. The goal is to, well, first, the students are selected based on data. So we look at the test data, the screeners, and we make our selections from that group. Then we design lessons to address their specific gap area, and we do progress monitoring and provide them the services that they need to show a gain. Then we do a post-assessment. And if the students in MAP played a big part in that, these students that graduated out, they showed significant gains from fall to winter MAP. We did a comparison. So the goal is not to keep them for a year if we can help it. We want to accelerate it, help close the gap, back up the decision with the data, progress monitoring, measures of assessment to show or to prove the decision to graduate or exit the student out of the program. And looking at the district's entire MAP data, there is a very large number of students that need the additional support post-COVID. So we want to be able to touch and reach as many as we can within the 3-year window. See, this department, 2024, we want to be able to show gains with data that supports that gain. So if Johnny needs 6 weeks and he can test out in 6 weeks, great, but Johnny may need 12. So it's really, it's based on the data. And the programs with the Math 180 and Read 180, that's an additional measure of assessment to support that decision. And what we did find, some of the students that were pulled from the MAP data as potential students that we needed to serve, with the Read 180 diagnostic test, their Lexile levels and assessment scores from that tool showed that they didn't need it. So when we get a situation like that, we have to look at the data and then maybe do another measure to confirm, because we don't want to exit someone out and we really need to be in there for that support. So you're looking at grades, teacher recommendation, MAP data, diagnostic test results to make a formal decision.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate that.
Have you ever had to have someone to re-enter the program? Because I was thinking it was only based on the child's needs due to getting behind, due to, COVID. So I
Right.
was thinking that, if they did go out, have you ever had to have someone to come back through it?
Great question. We've actually had this conversation as a department, and because we have a 3-year window to watch the students, our plan is to not to take our eyes off of the ones that have exited out. So we have the opportunity to keep our eyes on them and look at that data to make sure that they can retain their position. If we see that a student has dipped in performance, then we do feel like we could pull them again and provide that support to make sure that it is solid. Because we don't want them to just have a great 2-3 weeks, exit out, and then still struggle.
Why did you choose that model, the Math 180 and the Read 1? Because I'm thinking the high school had that at one time before. If I'm not mistaken.
From
I
what
don't
I
know how
understand,
effective it
the
was.
district did employ the use of the Read
I thought
180.
so.
Yes.
Wow.
Dr. Thomas and I did a lot of homework, a lot of research, went back and forth, and spent hours and hours talking to individuals to select a curriculum. The state actually endorses Read 180.
Mhm.
Now, historically, the program was designed to address the needs of students in special education, historically. But since the data shows that we are 2 to 3 years behind, we felt like, okay, we need to do something to accelerate to help close this gap. So that program was the closest thing that we felt that could be the most effective in a short period of time. So it has proven to yield 1 to 2 years of gains in reading within a school year if implemented and employed with fidelity.
Because I know there are other models out there,
Absolutely.
just from being in,
Absolutely.
attending
And it was a
meetings
tough
that we've
decision.
had.
It was a real tough decision, but we felt like with what our demographics are and the needs of our students, and the willingness for the interventionists to embrace the program, and they're like ready to rock and roll with it. Students seem to really like it. So we are hoping, fingers crossed, that we will get the results that we are looking for.
And I would like to add that it was based on data, so everything was based on looking at data. And because it was something that was implemented in the district before, we looked at the data and we saw the growth that transpired during that time. And so we could see firsthand that it was effective with our community and with our students. And so that was a major factor in making those selections as well.
Okay, here are just a few pictures of the interventionists at work with our students. This young man is working with Avi. I don't know if you guys remember Avi, our robot. Avi provides lessons on social emotional learning as well as reading and math. Right now, we have Lawrence Elementary is the only school that does not have a full-time interventionist, but all schools have interventionists that work with their students. Once we completely staff this department, then everybody will be full-time, and K-8 schools will have 2 interventionists because it's a K-8 school. So we are doing the best we can with what we have, and I'm very proud of my department because they get in there and they rock and roll. They have to find a space. You know, if it's a closet, a hallway, they do what they have to do to get the job done. So, and a special extra thank you to the cabinet for embracing the department. Mr. Finley, our hero. We have harassed him beyond belief with getting us set up with Read 180 and Math 180. I felt bad the Saturday before last when we did our first session for Saturday Success Before. Mr. Finley was on the phone with me. He was helping us, making sure we had everything together. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And it has been an awesome experience, and I am super excited about the future and sharing results with you about the number of students that we are servicing and are exiting out with success. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Bennon. This concludes the superintendent's portion of the report of the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. The next on the agenda under board operations, I had a agenda note for school safety, and I really didn't have anything formal planned. I really just wanted to acknowledge the fact that the board recognizes that there's been serious incidences in our district in the past couple of weeks, and then even one really that was frightening right before Christmas. And we just acknowledge that, and I wanted to give the board members an opportunity if there was anything that you would like to add, to share. And I had a few things that I was going to mention, but Dr. Thomas, I want to say first that I appreciate you bringing law enforcement in and the detail of what you have already covered, because I really think you may have answered a lot of my questions already. The 2 things, and we spoke about this earlier, but just easier access to mental health counselors, and then a deeper dive into trying to figure out why students have done what they've done in hopes that we can prevent something from happening in the future, whether it be with that student again at another location, because I do think the age of the students make a big difference in that too. And like I mentioned before, I've done a little bit of research prior to tonight, and other school districts that have actually had tragic situations occur and what they've done to counter that. And I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that most of the things that they are doing that we are doing. We are checking off those boxes. But when incidences come up, it always makes you question, are we doing enough? So I just wanted to acknowledge what was happening. If any other school board members would like to comment or address anything, happy to give everyone a minute to do that. So if not, we can move along.
You know, a lot of it starts at home, and I think that Dr. Thomas sent that out in one of her bullets, as well as a message to all the parents and the help and checking backpacks and all of that, book bags, whatever, going and coming. And the police officers, along with the police chief, made it very clear. You followed protocol according to them, the what, the when, you know, and getting things out in a timely fashion. And believe it or not, the phones were ringing at other schools, and even if they know, they can't tell. They shouldn't tell, and I don't think they do, because we would have a catastrophe. Every parent would be lined up there, you know, also infringing upon an investigation that's active. So I think we just have to be proactive and intervene and prevention and in the best way possible. And you've done a very good job of doing it. It's, all we can do is just hope and pray that it starts at home and that parents will take an active role in what their children are doing. Not necessarily punishing them, but to be involved in their lives and know exactly what's going on in it. Just be proactive with their children. How does something like this happen? It could have ended worse, and I'm glad it didn't.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Thomas, one thing you did mention was the committees at each school, safety committees. And maybe this is something you listed out, and I apologize. I've tried to write most of them down, but I may have missed one. But maybe having those committees meet jointly and not just at individual schools to see if there's things, are they sharing information and making sure that if anyone finds a best practice, obviously that we're filtering that through the whole district. So, but I do appreciate the thoroughness of your report on that tonight and bringing the law enforcement in. So, anything else from anyone? We'll move forward. If not, no. Okay. Now we're moving on to the first reading of one of our policies. Am I presenting this policy myself? Is that how this is working?
That's kind of what we thought, because these were two of the policies from the board work session that you all had in September.
Right.
These were two more. I think we had been instructed to bring those a couple at a time.
Okay.
So these were next up. Now,
Well, I
the
know all the
revisions,
previous ones still, I think Dr. Penland presented those previously, but I'll be happy to.
yep, he has them as well, but we did,
I'll be happy
Which-
to go through these. So this is the first reading for
Yes.
policy BE, which is board meetings, and EBCE, school closings and cancellations. So there's really no action to be taken. Everyone had the opportunity to see that in your board packet, and there's just a few minor changes in it that would allow for us to have a smoother transition during any election year.
So is this the one about the board meetings? BE?
BE,
First reading?
Yes, yes. This one is about board meetings, and the key notes that are different here is the swearing in of board meetings. We found ourselves in an awkward position a couple of years ago with not having a December meeting. We didn't get our new board members sworn in quickly enough, and so we were kind of into January before being able to really make a decision as a board because our new board members weren't sworn in. So this one just states that during the addition here is during the years of school board trustee elections, re-elected or newly elected trustees will be sworn in on the first working day of December following the certification of the election results. And so that just allows for the board to truly function in the month of December if something were to arise.
But we did have board members who functioned until the transition was had or held.
Well, the old board members, their time in office ended at the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
And so new board members started December 1, but couldn't vote.
Because
or
they
help
hadn't been
make-
sworn in, right?
Right, because they weren't sworn in. So that's all we're doing is trying to make sure any newly elected board members are sworn in at the earliest possible time frame and not wait till January, which is typically what has happened in the past.
But it's still been, I guess, the function of the people, of the board members were always functioning even until that time happened. So they were not out of the position as of then because they were still there because the newly elected ones had not been sworn in. I remember Trustee Varner had said that he wanted to change this anyway, So just to note that, and that's fine, but I don't
But
always
the
agree
old
with
board
it.
members couldn't function as of December 1st. So any board member that was no longer in place, they couldn't make any decisions or be a part of decisions as of December 1st, and new board members couldn't because they weren't sworn in yet.
Right, but what we did was still very legitimate as far as the meeting that was held. I know what you're referring to because Mr. Carpenter chaired that meeting.
That was before December 1st.
Right, that was
That was on
before
November
December
30th.
1st.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that one.
That was under the
changed.
new,
Right.
that was under the prior board members.
I kind of disagree with this still too, but I mean, this is actually kind of in between. It's not bad.
well, I don't know if you're gonna have one that's gonna be pleasing to everybody,
No.
but you know, right.
This is just first reading, and
Yeah.
what,
Yeah,
the,
we're not
the-
supposed to.
the reasoning behind the changes that we made was just based off of notes that we took at that work session.
Right,
So,
right.
you know, it is first reading, but we were trying to make sure that the new ones did get, sworn in, because the law does say that they take office December 1st, so.
Right, right.
Okay.
So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of the changes for policy BE, and of course, this is just first reading, so there's no action to be taken, and of course, we can have further discussion at second reading.
Madam Chair, and it does, you know, in the past, it said that the, at the annual meeting, that the chair and vice chair would be elected, like at the third meeting following and all that, but we
Right.
put it at the first meeting following.
Right, which makes
Clarification.
sense.
Mhm.
Right. Okay, so moving on to policy EBCE, which is school closings and cancellations. Again, this is just the first reading, so there's no action to be taken, but this is just going over a few changes to update our policy that was fairly old as far as school closings were concerned, so.
Well, in looking at this one, and I did read this, it said like, in the event of conditions of a pandemic or epidemic, superintendent or superintendent's designee is empowered to close or cancel schools for up to 5 days. This action will be taken only after consultation with knowledgeable authorities. Who are the authorities there? Just curious, who are the authorities there?
I took that to mean if we need to update that or reword that, we can, but my understanding was, you know, anytime Dr. Thomas has mentioned anything about knowledgeable authorities related to what we have been through during the pandemic, it has been referring to DHEC, health officials, and maybe we need to fine tune that wording. I don't want to get too specific because I think it needs to be applicable to whatever the issue is.
Did we have, when these changes are looked at, do we have an attorney or somebody looking over these as they're made or being presented to us?
I think that was discussed, but I don't know if anything ever
Well, can I,
transpired.
I just want to say that in this particular policy, I feel like the board itself is micromanaging because after 5 days, you know, the board is to convene. And I'm thinking, if I look at it this way and I interpret it the right way, it's like either the board's going to be the district people, you know, or the superintendent, because the superintendent is here for the everyday, to-day operations of the district. There are things that the superintendent is privy to that we're not. For example, when it comes down to every day, you know, like whether it's information from the State Department of Education, from the federal or state level, she's here. She's doing the job of superintendent as far as looking out for every child, but we are too, or we're supposed to. But I guess my concern is just basically management. I mean, because if she's got to come to us, and a lot of districts don't do it that way. I did some checking around and looking and talking to not only other board members in other districts, but also getting board policies, and the main person that makes those decisions is the superintendent. I guess that's a big problem that I have with that. You know, school closes and cancellations. I think that.
Well, I think anything related to a pandemic or epidemic closing and cancellation, any information, I don't know that there would be any information that the superintendent would be privy to that we and/or the public shouldn't be privy to
But
as well.
Yeah, she's
in
gonna give
that
it to us,
situation.
but they have a contact person, and she's our contact person for the district, because she's here for the day-to-day operations. Sometimes we overstep our roles by micromanaging.
And the superintendent still can close the school for 5 days without any consulting anyone. I mean, other than the
Right.
knowledgeable authorities that we've already talked about.
Right. But I still feel like, sometimes our hands can be tied if something comes up. And it's like, if the board's gonna do it, it can't be just one, because we work as one body, but it's 7 different people, and we all may look at it several different ways. So that's
Well,
something to think about.
I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, the whole board would be involved after the 5 days.
She involves us anyway, because she communicates everything that goes on, basically, everything that goes on. So I guess that's just a serious, concern I have. And I just think, Ms. Wilson, just show for the record that I feel like sometimes this looks at like micromanaging, and I don't think we need to micromanage. I think we need to let the superintendent do her job. I really do.
Thank you, Ms. Ware. First reading, we're gonna move along. Ms. Abercrombie, I think you are up next with some, let's see, yes.
Good evening. I'm here to present to you tonight for first reading policy IJL, and that is the Library Media Center material selection and reconsideration process that includes form IJL-E. And so if you'll remember a few months ago, there was a discussion across our state concerning age appropriateness of some books in some of the school libraries across our state. And as a result, the State Board of Education at their January meeting adopted a model policy regarding the selection and reconsideration of library materials. So from that, we utilized the model policy and that was provided by the State Board of Education, and we made edits to our policy, which you have in your board packets, along with a copy of the form IJL-E. And I'm presenting those to you tonight for first reading.
Thank you.
I have
Do
a
you some
question. I do have a
Go ahead.
question. Have all districts pulled these books from their shelves, basically? Because I know some school districts have and some haven't, but do
Yes,
you know?
and I think you're correct in that. I think some school districts have and some haven't, and because of that and the conversations that were happening and taking place, from a few months ago, that was why the State Board of Education, developed this model policy so that districts will have something to look at to implement what we need to do that. If that's a need of the community, and the committee then agrees with that and decides that.
I know some books are, we've had this in the past with language in some books and everything. And I know some books can really be taught some reality as well. So that being said, it's like kids like to sometimes read things that look like them. And I don't know if this is a service or a disservice when you look at it from that perspective, especially since it's a student in a dilemma even.
And I think the result of this is from the age appropriateness. I think if you recall in the news, the books that were in question were highly inappropriate for the age level of the libraries that they were in. There was a lot of sexual content and that type of thing, like in an elementary school, that was not appropriate. So I think it gives us that gauge that we can look at those things that are not age appropriate, considering that in our libraries, it's for educational purposes, but we want it to be at the appropriate age level for the students.
I just know times are changing, so it's kind of like we gotta meet with the change of times as well. So
And so in the recommendation, in the model policy, you know, that it explicitly lists the committee that the superintendent would appoint, and it's made up of a variety of not only district employees, but also parents, community members. So it would be, you know, a group of people. It would not be, you know, just solely based on our
And
education.
they are reading these books as well, too.
Thanks. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, first thing is going to be the Spectator attendee conduct and school district event, and sportsmanship policies, KFA and JICK. These are up for second reading. The first one is for our Spectator attendee conduct. This is the one that's at your table, is the one that we're presenting, not the one that's in your packet, because there was a little strike-through issue on one of these that corrected, and that is actually in the first paragraph with the both home and away. That was inadvertently struck in the one that's in your packet. But we did want to leave it in the top part. So we intended to keep that first paragraph to say both home and away. We corrected the wording that was just to make it consistent throughout the policy. As part of one of the consequences, we added a no trespass order. And we also clarified that the ejection that was kind of in there on page 2 was talking and referencing by an athletic official, and kind of took away the offense 1, offense 2, just because the first offense could be that you need to be gone the entire time versus just a 2-game suspension. And also made the appeal process consistent with other policies that it goes to the superintendent first and then to the board after that. So questions about the Spectator attendee conduct, KFA?
And this is up to a year?
Up to a year, yes, ma'am. The first part, whenever it's talking about misconduct and inappropriate behavior, is up to a year. For the ejection by the athletic, for the athletic official, is up for the remainder of the season. So if it is in softball, happens third or fourth game, they could come back next season or in the next football game or whatever, but that one just pertains to the athletic event.
So if a person says if somebody sucks, teams, that's rules or grounds for ousting?
I think it'll be kind of judged on how, if you know, sometimes you just say a word out and it's not kind of harassing. It's just a one-time verbiage or saying something, but it's that consistent, inappropriate behavior, consistent harassment, and that kind of stuff as those. And so some of that's going to be deemed based on, how loud you are, kind of how forceful you are, or if you're making other people uncomfortable in the situation. And we've asked in here in the policy that they go actually to the administrator or SRO on site, so it is addressed while they're there. But if you also see in KFAE 2, we created a form that they could fill out if it's after the fact. They want to report somebody, to be able to allow them the option to then have a way to let somebody know and report that incident after the fact. They may have gone to 2 games, have seen the same behavior by the same person, but where they're sitting, they may not be able to be visible by the administrator. Because sometimes whenever you're there in a large basketball game or a football game, based on where the administrator is placed, you may not hear the same things that you are if you're sitting in the stands next to them. So we did allow that as a process to be able to submit a form to let make the school administration aware of those instances after the fact.
So basically no freedom of speech or expression?
Didn't say that.
No, but it can be interpreted that way.
It could be, but also sometimes freedom of expression is also harassment to somebody, or is inappropriate to younger kids that are sitting there.
Yeah.
So you don't want somebody constantly cussing and using foul language at the same time when the other young kids are there. So there has to be that kind of guide between the two.
Yeah.
And so
I know we can't always control and predict one's behavior.
Right, but I think the policy that y'all asked for was one that you could give a little bit more to administrators to be able to uphold the expectations of sportsmanship and behavior and conduct that we have for our students, we have for our staff, that we can also expect for the same thing of our public that are coming to kind of hopefully cheer on our athletes, not bring them down. Okay, this one would need board action to be approved for a second reading. Do you have any other questions?
Okay, so, go ahead.
Do you want me to go ahead and talk about sportsmanship and do them all at once, or do you want to do it individually?
That'll be fine. Go ahead and do them both together.
Sportsmanship, the only thing we changed there was we made the wording consistent, and we also made the appeal process with other policies consistent. So those are the only two changes that we made in that policy. Any questions on sportsmanship? Okay, so both of these would need board action, and the exhibit is also for just
So based on the two policies that Dr. Penland has just gone over with us, KFA and JICK, we would need a motion in order to approve those policies.
I'll make a motion to approve both KFA and JICK as presented by Dr.
Thank you, Mr. Barger.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. So we have a motion to approve policies KFA and JICK. All those in favor, raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion,
Yes, please, let's have discussion. Thank you,
I got
John.
a question. Some verbiage here on page 2 could result in a spectator being denied. That doesn't say will result.
Which one are you on?
On page 2,
The spectator attendee conduct.
yeah, the spectator
Oh, okay.
attendee. So that leaves some discretion there. Could result in the spectator being denied admission. And then 3, a spectator may be issued a trespass order, not shall be.
Yeah, both of those were written kind of similar to our other policies.
Right.
That allow the discretion for
I was
some
gonna say, is that
administration.
intended to
That
give
is
some
intended,
discretion?
so that,
Yeah.
so for example, if somebody is thrown out of a game because they yelled at a, is that one incident enough to get them
Right.
removed or no trespass order for an entire year?
Right.
So there is some form of discretion there that will allow the SRO with the school administration to be able to have some conversation.
Okay.
But we didn't want it to be an automatic, this is first step, second step, third step.
Right.
But we wanted to be able to allow it to have enough meat and teeth that says we can do this if we need to. if we
Same
don't.
thing with the ejection by the athletic official.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're speaking of what possibly may be yelled at the official. I mean, you're still in a sporting event. If somebody holler, "Come on, ref,
Yeah.
get it right." I mean,
Right, so
it's not offensive.
that's not offensive,
Yeah.
but if you're sitting there cussing and just on and on and on badgering a player or a official, then that's the level of,
Or a coach.
or a coach, so whenever you're looking at those, all of those instances, just like our, any type of behavior code, anything like that, you have those different levels that you have to look at based on the actual incident to know what you have.
And that discretion is ultimately afforded to the superintendent. to
It's
make that-
originally at the school administrator,
Yeah.
and then it can be appealed to the superintendent, and then it's gone.
Excuse me, Dr. Penland, except if the official through the South Carolina High School League ejects them, right? They can't appeal that to
Well,
our
they can't appeal the
superintendent?
ejection, but they can appeal the actual penalty that we put on them based on that.
And it's only at the recommendation of the principal? Or,
Well, it's
I
the
would,
it's the school administration that would work together with like the athletic director or the athletic coach and, that kind of stuff
Okay.
based on
Whomever's-
what the situation is. They would have those conversations. If the SRO was involved, they would also have to have that conversation. Was there an incident report? Did they get arrested or whatever? That kind of thing.
because I'm thinking school security is there anyway for that. And if they see, within sight and sound, certainly that's why we hired them to be there in the
Yeah.
first place,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would think.
As long as there's some officer discretion there, it's,
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, then we'll go back to all those in favor of the motion to approve policies KFA and JICK as Dr. Penland has presented them. Please raise your hand. So that's unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Penland.
Thank you. Okay, the next thing that was on the agenda is the calendar revisions. We were tasked to do a survey and ask for information and feedback based on the 2022-2023 calendar. We submitted and pushed out a survey right before Christmas. We had 360 parents, students, and staff provide input for revisions on the 22-23 school calendar. And then the data that was provided here, you can see the larger blue section is referencing to staff, no parents. The larger red section is representative of the students. And then all the smaller triangle pieces are representative of each school that submitted information based on if they worked at one of those locations. What we did with those calendar information, we then went to we have a calendar committee that meets each year whenever we're developing this. They take feedback back to their schools. They get more information back from their school teams and then come back. And as we meet as a district calendar committee, typically with Clinton in Lawrence 56, because we have in the past done a common calendar, they also went through a revision process and submitted some revisions actually tonight at their board meeting. They are a little bit different than what our committee decided upon theirs, so we'll have a few days different for next calendar year if this calendar in their calendar is approved. So we basically have a person per school, and that representative could be teacher, principal, assistant principal, athletic director, whoever that school administration deems to be the representative for their school, to be able to gather that feedback and come back. They were provided the results of our survey, which provided a lot of information to us, and we asked questions from anywhere from did you want a fall break, an extended fall break, do you want to change your spring break, do you want a longer winter break, if you had the entire Thanksgiving week off, so it kind of went the whole gamut of questions. And basically the committee came back, reviewed all those, and they have kind of a recommendation of 3 dates to be changed. Those dates are in December. We basically added 3 days to the calendar year, and we did that by moving, what are those purple days called? Makeup days. The purple days. We talk in color whenever we're talking calendar. So the purple makeup days, and we added 1 vacation day. So the first purple day that we moved from the end of the year up was to add that on to winter break, because in the original calendar there were only 9 vacation days. So we like to try to adhere to a 2 full week. And so that added, basically, if we have makeup days, and let me tell you how the makeup days work. Whenever you have makeup days now, we are an approved e-learning district, so we can utilize up to 5 makeup days through e-learning. So we don't actually have to do a purple day. So after 5 e-learning days, the board has the discretion to waive 5 additional days prior to making those days up. So we're pretty sure that the purple days won't be touched. So whenever you look at this purple day, the makeup day at the beginning of the winter break would no longer have to be a purple day, it would become a vacation day. So that was proposed change 1. The second date was to actually add a red day, which is a vacation holiday right there in February. That actually gives the teachers a true break in February versus just not having kids, because the 20th is the President's Day. So that actually gives kids a 4-day weekend, teachers a true 3-day weekend, and then a day to come back in for professional development without kids. Then change 3. One of the comments that spring break would always be after Easter was the recommendation, because they like that break after kind of a busier weekend. So the committee, instead of changing the week of spring break due to some people already having vacations planned for spring break, they didn't want to change it for this current year, but went ahead and put one of those makeup days as the day after Easter so that people have a little bit of a break if they are traveling on that Sunday. And then, so what changed at the end of May and the beginning of June, you basically now, we have moved 3 green days from earlier in the year, shift those back to the year, so now May 30th, 31st, and 1st become student days. Graduation would be the 1st. I have the 3rd on there as a Saturday, but remember that purple day is a makeup day, so that yellow will slide back to the 2nd if those makeup days are not used. And so you actually end for teachers on Friday if that makeup day is not utilized. So that does still just put 3 days for students after Memorial Day and then 1 more teacher day. So that is the proposal that went through the recommendations of the school calendar.
Do you all ever talk about the whole week of Thanksgiving? I know that.
That was one of the options, and even whenever we look at the survey results that was provided by people that actually answered that question, let me find that. Thanksgiving break should be, and the options that we provided was a 5-day, a 3-day, or a 2-day. 62% wanted to leave it as a 3-day option. 34% wanted the full week off, and about 5% wanted it just as a 2-day option, just a Thursday, Friday. What happens is whenever you know that you're taking days during the green days away during the summer, you're going to put them on the end somewhere. And so a lot of people didn't want to say, I already know I'm getting 3 days off, I can handle that, I don't need a full week right there. So that's kind of that discussion that we had in the calendar committee meeting. Also a big concern for especially the teachers that were in that group was, I have enough breaks in the fall because I can see days coming, but those 9 to 12 weeks of green in the spring is hard because there's no real breaks for teachers because they have staff development days. They didn't have really any red days from Martin Luther King until spring break. And so they don't really have a day off anytime through there. And so that's why they wanted to go to putting more days in the spring as optional breaks versus
That day in February, I've heard a lot of staff suggest that, and that's the Montessori development weekend that we would have had to have subs for everyone that went down for that. So I think that's a great idea. I noticed, like I said, the staff that gave that feedback appreciates us listening to them.
Well, I was shocked by some of the survey results because I thought they were going to go one way versus the other, especially whenever we were in the middle of a lot of that and everybody wanted Thanksgiving week off but then didn't vote for it. You know, that one kind of shocked me.
It's when reality hits that
yeah,
you can have it
you
off,
say,
but then you're going to be
you
in
want to
June.
go in June. So that was kind of the thing there. So this one would need board approval if you so choose.
Move to accept the 2022-2023 calendar as presented by Dr. Pennell.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Berner. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Is there any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor for the motion to approve the revised school calendar, revised school year 2022-2023 district calendar as Dr. Pennell presented, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pennell.
One more thing on calendar I just want to throw out there. The last question on the survey was an option to give their feedback on a modified schedule or modified calendar. I think there is some discussion and some questions out there because some of our neighboring districts have done that. So this basically said, do you want us to kind of look at that, or what would you want? And so 43% said yes, 35% said no, and then you had another 21% that said either way. Whenever you look at that, the way this is worded, it's actually 2 different types of calendars. Whenever you look into it, a modified schedule is not a year-round. A year-round would be that you have at least 1 day in every calendar. So there are a couple of different options there that a lot of people stay away from the year-round, and some people do like a modified that would like put a couple of weeks breaks in there. So I do know whenever the calendar committee meets that Clinton has asked us to also consider kind of proposing a modified and a regular schedule to kind of get some feedback based on those, and we are planning to meet in the next couple of months with them too. So just kind of know that may be 2 different options of calendars that we bring forward in the next time we meet. All right, so then we also have Safe Return Plan. This is the plan that by the money that we get of ESSER funding, the ARP funds, the 16.9 million, basically says we have to have this plan and we have to review it every 6 months. And so this one has to go up for review every 6 months. And luckily, this is pretty good timing for us to make some changes that have just been released through CDC. So kind of going through that, I kind of want to give you kind of a history of where we've been over the past few months. Whenever you look at our current numbers, as of this past Friday, we only had 9 COVID cases. That was 7 positives, 2 quarantines. We have come a long way through a hard year. Whenever you're looking at our dashboard over the past several months, the left half is last school year. The right half is this current school year. So whenever you look at the spikes that we had in September and August, September, that was Delta. Whenever you look at the spike on the right, that is Omicron, and that is when we were no longer quarantining. So you can see how high we are. We still had 477 students quarantined when we were not quarantining, and that's household contacts. So that's the only thing that we were quarantining for at that time. So if we would have been contact tracing, we were contact tracing, but if we would have been quarantining based on those close contacts in the classroom, my gauge would have been, that would have been 1,500 to 2,000 kids out at that time. So you can see that we did have a spike. It was a very hard spike to come through, but we have made it to the other side. And whenever we're looking at what our cumulative data is for the past current school year, when you look at these counts, it may be a teacher was out for 2 different reasons. We have had 449 staff out, 4,977 students out this school year due to either quarantine or isolation in our schools. So when we talk about attendance, yes, we have been hit with attendance in many ways. So, Safe Return Plan updates. If you go through that section, I've kind of broken it down based on what we changed in each section for your review. Section 1, no change, basically keep everything in there, just talking about our maintaining healthy and safety. Universal changing of mask. This one has changed since you received your packet. We received on February 25th a new update from CDC, and they are no longer enforcing masks on buses. So that now will allow us to take the requirement for masks on buses out of our policy. They said since the CDC and everybody was changing their mask on, their guidance on changing it from a pandemic to an endemic now, that we can now go to a more flu-like kind of looking at that the COVID as more of a flu versus as a pandemic. So that's kind of the guidance that we're getting from DHEC and CDC right now. So whenever you're looking at page 3, what I would like for you to do is also allow us to strike the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th paragraph, which would take out all the information referencing requiring masks on buses. So that would just leave masks are not required in the school buildings. If so desired, students and staff will be allowed to wear masks based on CDC and South Carolina DHEC guidelines. And also the last paragraph on that page where it says we may still require masks in health rooms and if somebody is showing symptoms. So basically that would, in that section, just leave those 2 pieces. Any questions about masking? Okay. Section 3, whenever we're looking at modifying facilities, we didn't recommend any changes. Section 4, hand washing and respiratory etiquette, no changes there that we're recommending. And then section 5, we're saying taking out the cleaning of the buses daily. That was a wipe down with wipes and people coming out and that kind of stuff. We'll still utilize the sprayers and that kind of stuff whenever needed. And then also in that section, we want to have the water fountains turned off. We want to be able to be allowed to turn those back on when we see fit, but those water filler bottle stations are still installed and still being utilized in the schools. Any questions about section 5? Section 6 is another big change with the contact tracing because of guidance on February 22nd. So you see we got something on the 22nd, got something else on the 25th, so it's constantly changing. But this one guideline changes the way we quarantine and close contact trace based on CDC guidelines. This is the one that actually now has put in a 10% rule. If you have 10% of your students or staff that are sick, so they're isolated, then you would, for 2 weeks in a row, then you would go back to contact tracing. And then they also have left the isolation, so if you are sick, you go home, you stay out the number of days, and also if you're showing symptoms until you get a negative test. So that's kind of what they have put in there. But I did want to show the 10% of the school population. So whenever you're looking at the school population going down through there, you range from basically 10% of the school, 45. On the right side column, this is the highest we ever got at any given school at any time during our peaks. So whenever you're looking at, now we have to have 45 students positive at EB, the highest we've ever been is 32. The only place that we ever went over the 10% rule was at Lawrence Middle, which was for 1 week. It was not for 2 weeks. So kind of going forward, unless we get a very, very highly contagious another spike, they have basically set up the rules now that we would not have to start contact tracing again and going into quarantining and that type of thing, because it would be very hard to go back through that spike that we've been through to get higher numbers than this. Okay. So in this section, it basically now just says the guidelines are for individual schools, not our entire district. That's why I broke it down by individual schools. The 10% rule, and then if you are 2 weeks in a row with higher than 10% in any given school, then you would go back into the CDC guidelines of providing quarantine or enforcing quarantine and possible school closures. Okay. Then sections 8, we just struck the reference to the section, section 7, we struck the reference to section 6. Section 7, just changed the eligible age date because we had 12 years of age there, and removed that to just say whoever's eligible, so that would be open for 5-year-olds and up, and if they change anything. And then no changes except for some verb tenses. And then section 13, we added the updated timeline of our survey that we submitted, and also got feedback and today's information. Questions on the reopening plan?
Anyone have any questions?
Okay. This one would take board action.
Would someone like to make a motion to get the reopening plan on the table? Okay, come on, the clock's ticking, come on.
I've got the last two. I'll make a motion to accept the reopening plan as presented by Dr. Penland with the changes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Varner. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We have a motion on the table to approve the revised 2021-2022 school year safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. Are there any discussion, or is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the motion, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Penland.
Thank you, John.
Okay, moving along, Mr. Wallace.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I believe everyone's had a copy of the financial report for January 2022 delivered to them. Our balance with the treasurer's office as of the end of January was $11,562,445, which marks, I believe, the first time in quite a while where we've had a year-over-year increase in that balance. That's a positive uptick. Our fiscal year-to-date general fund revenues for those first 7 months were $29,982,840, with expenditures for that same period of $25,081,653, for a difference of $4,901,167, which is a little less than where we were at this point last year. And also keep in mind that with local tax collections being seasonal, this is likely the high point for the year, and likely for the balance of the year, our revenues will be exceeded by the expenditures. The tax collections for the month of January were $5,950,830, which is a little over $1 million less than they were in January of 2021. Now, some of that's timing related, things that we received. It looks like we had some double ups in January of 2021. But we are keeping an eye on some local revenues, especially in the area of the fee in lieu of taxes. That's significantly less than we've had in prior years. And District 56 is seeing the same thing on their side, so that's something that we're going to inquire about, just to make sure that we don't need to make any adjustments on the fly for our outlook for the balance of the year. Anybody have any questions about that financial report before we do to my other item? Okay. The Lead Board of Directors held their annual meeting on February the 9th. That's the Lawrence Education Assistance for District 55, or LEAD Corporation, and that's a 501c3 organization that was developed in 2005 to finance various renovations, energy management upgrades, and capital projects, as well as to refinance higher interest rate loans at that time. At that time, the original LEAD debt balance was $39,465,000, and as of June 30th of 2021, it was $23,820,000. And that represents the entirety of the district's long-term debt. In other business, the Lead Board elected their officers, and they voted to keep the same slate of officers that they had elected in the prior year. So Jim Todd is still your chairman, is still their chairman and president. Reverend Bryant Cheek is their vice chairman and vice president. Ernie Seegers is serving as the secretary treasurer, and Wilhelmina Jones will serve as the fourth member of the executive committee. And then those four plus Patsy Casey make up the 5 members of that board. There were no members of the board whose term will be expiring this year, so there's not any nominations for a reappointment or appointment to come before this board this evening. Does anybody have any questions about those procedures?
I think they're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Ms. Wilson?
Yes,
Do we
ma'am, we have,
public participation tonight?
we have 2, and I'll just give them to you in the order in which I received them, if that's okay.
Okay.
The first is Susan Carlay, and the topic is school safety. The second is Thomas Allen, and I think it's Rickard, and the topic there again is school safety.
Okay. Just my statement that I read before we do public participation. Individuals who submitted the required form for public participation portion of the meeting are strongly encouraged to maintain appropriate decorum while addressing the board. Please remember that this is a meeting of a public school board, and children may either be in attendance or watching via live stream. Please use appropriate language reflecting the nature of the meeting and its audience. Pursuant to board policy BEDH, speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any public session any expression of personal complaint about a school personnel, nor against any person contacted with the school system. Ms. Carlay, you have a
Good
read.
evening, Madam
Thank you.
Chair, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Thomas. My name is Susan Carlay, and I'm the mother of 3 sons. 2 are graduates of Lawrence High School, and 1 is a freshman there, where I currently serve on the School Improvement Council as a parent representative. It is unfathomable to me that in recent weeks there have been multiple loaded handguns that have made their way into our schools by way of students. It is unbelievable that my special needs son spent several hours in a locker room in a lockdown during the school day. It is further unsettling to me as a parent that the lion's share of communication regarding a solution has centered on parental responsibility. I unequivocally agree that you have every right to challenge parents and families in this district to be responsible with guns that are in the home. It absolutely starts in the home. However, as a parent who has supported this district for more than 2 decades, I feel that you need to be challenged as well. I have a right to do that because every single day I put my child in your hands. Dr. Thomas, I read your newsletter and appreciate that you are refocusing safety committees to reevaluate safety protocols. Just as you pled with parents to be responsible, I am now pleading with you to be proactive. Until now, most, if not all, of the district's efforts have been reactive. For that, I commend you. While response protocol is imperative, however, I am now asking you to do more. There are schools all over this state and country that have implemented preemptive safety practices like clear bags, metal detectors, and a regular presence of law enforcement canines. These are proactive practices that warrant your consideration. And as a parent, I'm pleading with district leadership and law enforcement. We have a problem. And as adults and positions of leadership, we need to model for our children what finding a solution looks like. To put it simply, the acceptable answer to the problem of improving school safety is never a long line of excuses and finger pointing. The acceptable answer is an actual solution, or at the very least, an attempt at one. I am not here to criticize, but to partner with you as a parent and spur you on. I am not an unreasonable person. I support the Second Amendment. I have my concealed weapons permit, but there are no-fly zones when it comes to guns, and the schoolhouse is one of them. You can't go to a concert, through an airport, a sporting event, etc., without going through a metal detector and clear bag requirements. Adults, we protect ourselves, but we don't do the same for our children. I know that nothing you do is going to be foolproof, and I get that. But please, for the love of our children, just do something proactive. I commit to you that I will do my part and ask in return that you do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carlay. Mr. Riker.
Thank you. I appreciate your having public participation. I appreciate y'all's interest in protecting our children. I just have just a few words I want to say. I certainly won't take 3 minutes, I don't think. My interest is helping to bring out the fact that in most conflicts that have weaponry, it's often seen to be an advantage if you show might, that you are prepared to respond. When speaking with my school board member earlier, he had an idea that I think would be very beneficial. The SRO officers on site have weaponry that they are trained to use. They also have weaponry that's not attached to the school, but should be, I think. If there was a locker where they would have long guns in case an intruder had a long gun, they would have appropriate response. The reason I say that mainly is so that you can communicate to students, parents, that you're beefing up, making a response that would help them to see that it's not a smart idea to bring a gun to school. That's what I would think would be a benefit there. That's my school safety comment. I didn't know if I would have information to go into a different topic, so I didn't list it as part of my topic. But I did want to respond to some other information that I received, I think the end of the year. Being someone who's involved with financial counseling aspect of economics. I have an analytical and practical, yet kind of critical view of figures associated with budgets and things. And I researched just this afternoon and was able to come up with a comparison of a connected district with our district. And in Greenville, they operate about 10 times as much money as we have in Lawrence. And they operate with about 10% of those monies going to administration. Lawrence County operates with about 10% more of their money going to administration. And that's why I want to close by saying that I don't think it's a good idea to increase the amount we're spending on administration in Lawrence District 55.
Thank you, Mr. Reichert. That concludes our public participation, and now we do have an executive session on the agenda tonight to discuss three topics: administrative employment contract recommendations, a contractual matter regarding district property, and the discussion of the superintendent's goals and objectives. In order to move to executive session, we would have need a motion to do that.
I make a motion to move to executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. We have a motion to enter into executive session to discuss administrative employment contract recommendations for school year 22-23, contractual matter regarding district property, and the superintendent's goals and evaluation. Is there any discussion?
There is discussion.
Okay.
And I like
Thank
to
you,
just
Ms.
note, Ms. Wilson, for the record, if you would just note this. I've been on this board nearly 3 decades, and I have to say that because I may not be the oldest age-wise, but board member-wise, I am. And I just have to note this. We have done Dr. Thomas's evaluation in November, and I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I just want the general public to know that we did contract with an attorney, and we've paid out over $7,000. And if we're going to be a common sense board, we've got to be very conscious of taxpayers' dollars and how they're spent. I say that to say this. It is now time for us to try to put this situation, as what we are going in here for, one of the ones, to a conclusion or a rest, because it's carried on for so long. Something like this has never happened in my entire existence on this board, even when I served as chair of this board, just because it was done by the chairperson. So to be good stewards of taxpayers' dollars, over $7,000 at that, we need to be very conscious of what we're doing and how we're doing it. So this particular problem really needs to be put to rest. It needs to be concluded. It has gone on for quite some time now. So I'm hoping that we can get that done or accomplished, because a lot of hours have been expended on this. And it just kind of bothers me because it's never happened. And if, according to what Trustee Hughes said on his statement, common sense board, and I've served on a lot of boards with those who've gone on before and those who are currently here. And they have, everybody's different. And I say that to say, hold on, Miss Little, Trustee Little, hold on one second, I'm not quite finished. I say that to say, well, I should have more. I'm a trustee like anybody else. And what I'm saying is definitely public knowledge. The taxpayers need to know what's been spent.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
perfectly fine.
But everybody else have had their talk, and I'm entitled to mine. Therefore, it needs to really be brought to a conclusion. I say that because I'm hoping we can do that. And if not, we're doing her a disservice as well as ourselves. We're doing our superintendent a disservice as well as ourselves. So that needs to be put to rest. And I want my words to be reflected in the minutes, Ms. Wilson. Thank you.
Any further discussion before we go to executive
Just
session?
agree and call the question.
Okay. All those in favor to move into executive session?
I'm ready to go into executive session as
Unanimous.
well.
Ms. Wilson?
Madam Chair, I would like to request Ms. Madden to attend.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, we're going to reconvene in open session. We do have a couple of items to take action on from the executive session. The first to be our administrative employment contract recommendations for the 2022-2023 school year. We do have two lists to go through, so if we could get a motion for list A.
I make a motion to approve the administrative employment contract recommendations for the 2022-2023 school year on list A.
Thank you.
I second.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We have a motion to approve the certified employees listed on list A. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. That's unanimous, Ms. Wilson. Motion passes. And now we need a similar motion for list B.
I make a motion to approve the administrative employment contract recommendations for the 2022-2023 school year on list B.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Rawl. Thank you, Mr. Garner. We have a motion.
Is Mr. Hughes going to?
Oh.
I'm going to recuse myself on.
Thank you, Mr.
B.
Hughes. Mr. Hughes is going to recuse himself from list B. So we have a motion to approve list B for the administrative employment contract recommendations for school year 2022-2023. All those in favor?
Did we have a second? I'm sorry.
Mr. Garner.
Mr.
I'm
Garner.
sorry.
He whispered it.
All those in favor? All right, that's unanimous minus Mr. Hughes. The motion passes. Now our second item is board action on the contractual matter regarding district property.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to, on this matter, make a motion to authorize Dr. Thomas or her delegate to reply to the property inquiry in a negative or not interested manner.
Thank you, Mr. Varner.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We have a motion for Dr. Thomas to reply to the contractual matter on the property in a negative or non-interested manner. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And then our final, wait,
No board action.
is that it? I think we're good.
Now
I think
it's time
we're
for
good.
Mike to make his motion.
Do it.
Now it's time for Mike to make his
Yes,
motion.
now we can adjourn if we have.
I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. All those in favor of adjourning?
Amen.
Unanimous. Thank you, everyone. We're adjourned.